inviting specialists, researchers, experts across the world to share their experience. Today is a special day. In this episode, we are starting a special series on RotoLeaders with Tom Innis. So Tom Innis is one of the leading professional rotomolding professional and a strong promoter of rotational molding with 30 plus years of experience. He's leading this series and he's going to have a conversation with the leaders of the rotational molding. And today our guest is Mr. Matt Bushman, is the president of the Plasticraft. The objective of the whole conversation and this series with Tom Innis is, it's a maybe mini MBA class today. We quickly learn from the experience of the Matt Bushman, his experience, vision, and the lessons learned is over the years of his business. So now, without further delay, let's get started. I invited Tom Innis to start this first episode of the RotoLeaders with Tom Innis. Tom, it's all yours now.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Param. First of all, for the kind words, and also for the opportunity here to host today's webinar. Again, to all our participants, thank you for joining us. My name is Tom Innis, as Param explained. I'm CEO of an organization called Accelerate Growth Partners. We are a multidiscipline consulting firm focusing on the global plastics industry, specifically in the rotational molding realm. We're based in Madison, Wisconsin, USA. For our international attendees today, it's fairly close to Chicago. And really excited to kick off today's new webinar series called RotoLeaders, in which we're going to be highlighting leaders of successful organizations in the global rotational molding industry, gaining their insight, their perspective, their experience on how they've successfully led their respective organizations, but also have had an impact in moving the industry as a whole on a global basis forward. So really excited to be here and kick this off. Please do join us for our future episodes, if you will. But today, really excited to introduce our special guest, Mr. Matt Bushman. Matt is president of Plasticraft Corporation. Plasticraft Corporation is a leading rotational molder, certainly in the United States and really on a global scale. They're located also in the state of Wisconsin, in a town called Darien, Wisconsin. And full disclosure, I've known Matt for as long as I've been in the industry, which is 29 years. And Plasticraft was the very first rotational molding facility that I ever visited. So Matt and I have a long history. I know you're going to enjoy Matt's perspective. So without further ado, good morning, Matt. Thank you for joining us today.
Morning, Tom. Really appreciate the opportunity to spend a little time with you and the international group, and hopefully I can provide a little insight and just present a little history of where we've been, what we've done to help promote the industry. I mean, we've got a wonderful industry, rotomolding, not as well known as other plastic processes. So anything we can do to get the word out of how wonderful our process is, I want to do it.
I couldn't agree with you more, Matt. Number one, on the fact that rotomolding is wonderful. And number two, we have an opportunity collectively to sort of raise the profile of our industry in the eyes of potential manufacturers, product designers, end users, et cetera. And we'll get there in a moment, right? So let's start, if you're okay with this, Matt. Why don't you share with our attendees a little bit of background information on Plasticraft in terms of where you're located, number of years Plasticraft has been in business, a number of machines, overall manufacturing capabilities, even above and beyond rotational molding. Just share with us a little bit of a profile of the company that you lead.
Sure. Plasticraft Corporation is a custom molder of hollow plastic parts. So we do both rotational molding, which is primary. We also do blow molding, accumulator extrusion blow molding. So two primary ways to make hollow plastic parts. We currently have 15 conventional rotational molding machines, various sizes up from, I think, 220 up to a 460 or 4600, I guess. Those would be Fairy nomenclature. We have 3 smart machines from Persico, which are the direct mold heating system. In addition to that, we have 11 blow molding machines, probably range from size of about 2.5 pound head to 35 pound shot size. And we also do our own internal color compounding and pulverizing. So we've integrated backwards into those processes. We also provide warehousing and direct ship capabilities to our customers. So we've developed skills regarding warehousing of products and then direct shipping to our customers' customer, so to speak. Some of them are direct consumers. I've been in the industry now for 33 years. Plasticraft started about a year before I joined. And so when I joined the organization, there were 10 employees here, and they were looking for some manufacturing support. And I joined, and we had very, very explosive growth. I believe 2 years after I joined, we had 200 employees. So our business took off, and through the years, we've certainly had a roller coaster up and down, got larger, had bigger customers. Some of those went away, but we've learned continuously and have continued to grow throughout the 33 years I've been here.
Congratulations, Matt. Quite a run for you. 33 years and explosive growth. We'll talk a little bit more about what drove the growth, et cetera. You know, I'm always interested in, sort of understanding the complete picture with regard to successful organizational leaders like yourself. Obviously, you've amassed a tremendous amount of process-related knowledge and business knowledge, which we certainly can touch on here. I'm also interested in a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, of your personal background. I know from getting to know you over the years, you were born and raised in a relatively small town in the central part of the state of Wisconsin, which is fairly rural in nature. How, if at all, how did your upbringing in a small town, how did that, sort of help shape your approach to life in general and to business? Is there a direct sort of correlation between, where and how you grew up and your sort of approach to leading the Plasticraft organization?
Well, I believe it's most likely true for everybody. There's some direct correlation from how they grew up. So I did grow up in a small town, large family, 5 brothers, 3 sisters. I was the oldest boy. I had 1 older sister. My father was a mason contractor, so bricklayer, stone, concrete, brick, you name it, smaller work, more residential. So I grew up, started working for my dad when I was 10 years old. So learned how to move materials around, mix mud, do whatever. And then throughout my high school and college career, I would work for my father during the summers and basically was trained to be a bricklayer. But my father and mother didn't really want me to stay in that at that point. So they encouraged me to go to college. I went to college. But the whole notion of a small family business and the hard work and the dedication, the perseverance that it takes for those businesses to be successful really shaped my life and my career. And so I owe a lot to my father, mother, for them being very tough and disciplined, and kind of me not having a choice, but I had to work. So, but I've always made things in my whole career and my whole life.
Well, rotational molding, I think it could be explained as a very hands-on business, right? And I think in my opinion, the most successful companies are ones where the leadership also has a hands-on approach to the business. And that sounds like, laying bricks and mixing mud and literally working with your hands, sort of translated to the way in which you approach your leadership role at Plasticraft. That's my observation, but do you have anything else to add to that?
No, it definitely has. I mean, basically, I'm a hands-on person,
right?
And maybe too much so at some times. But
so you went to college at University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, relatively small school in southeastern part of the state. Then you went on to receive or to earn, I should say, your MBA, your Master's of Business Administration at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Is there anything, particular that, that you look back on as you earned your MBA that has helped you be successful in your leadership role at Plasticraft?
Well, I my undergrad was operations management.
Okay.
And my MBA, I did have an emphasis in operations.
Okay.
And so that has always been the love of my life, is manufacturing or making things in some fashion. I think that, when you look back at college, the couple things that really help you is it teaches you to be logical, orderly, pay attention to details. I think about a last year during the winter, I was cleaning out some papers, and pretty interesting along my journey, I found a paper that I wrote in 1979 on the impact of robotics in manufacturing.
Wow.
And so I read that, and it's pretty laughable and archaic today. But I forgot that robotics were being talked about in the late 70s.
Yeah.
And then later on, during my MBA, I actually wrote a supply chain paper on the impact of supply chain in the world, and that obviously really became important in the past few years. And there's actually now college degrees in supply chain.
Right.
So all of these cumulative things that you learn, you can always reference back to a base knowledge. So I believe my education formed a nice baseline and some nice guideposts on how to look back. I don't think it was anything specific other than logically how to solve problems.
When you combine that, your educational background, which was very focused, and also your upbringing, which you described as, hard work, putting things together, using your brain and your hands to make things. When you then graduated with your MBA, my guess is you were, looking at a number of opportunities, and I'm really interested and curious to hear how you landed on rotational molding.
Well,
was Plasticraft at the time that you graduated and were talking to them, were they involved in rotomolding yet, or?
No,
Okay.
I worked in manufacturing I believe like 13 years prior to joining Plasticraft.
Okay.
So I had
Okay.
experience making faucets, making dock levelers, making high-speed industrial doors, a whole variation of manufacturing. How I got involved with rotomolding was directly related to my wife. A gentleman I had worked for, and where I met my wife, he hired my wife and we met, and then he left and bought a business. He's the person who started Plasticraft. Bob Fettig is his name. And my wife was working for him. I was working somewhere else, and she'd come home and say, you got to see this. This is amazing. This process on how they can make parts. And so I was intrigued, and I asked some questions, but the timing wasn't quite right. And then all of a sudden I got a call from one of my previous bosses, Bob, said, "Hey, we have an opportunity. This business looks like there's a couple of good customers. There's going to be some growth, and we really don't have a solid manufacturing person. So want to know if you're interested in coming." And I knew enough from my wife and had observed enough that I knew I wanted to jump into that because the possibilities seemed endless.
Right on. Well, it's amazing. Another thing we have in common is that both of our wives have a direct connection to us being in the rotomolding industry. That's a story for another day, at least mine, but interesting to hear that. So when you entered Plasticraft, not as president, is that correct?
That is correct. I came in as operations manager.
Operations manager. And, obviously learned the ropes of rotational molding through observation, through the hands-on commitment. And please forgive me, there's a fire truck passing by my office right now, if you can hear that. But, what were some of the things you learned in your personal life, your education, that became sort of guiding principles of leadership as you assumed? Well, certainly the operations manager is a leadership role. So, what are some of the guiding leadership principles that you've applied in both of your roles, operations manager and president at Plasticraft, Matt?
Well, I think the number one thing is to pay attention to details. All the small details are what makes things happen. Most people want to pay attention to the big things. Well, everybody knows that's going on. So if you pay attention to the small details, usually you'll have some type of success. So fundamentally, that's it. Throughout my career in rotomolding, there have been wonderful people in the industry that have shared tremendously. ARM, the Association of Rotational Molders, has been a wonderful resource for me for the last 33 years. They're welcoming, supplier base. And so I think when you ask me, well, what really helped along the way was listening to all of the experts, so to speak, or people who had experience, listening, observing, continue to try new things. The industry when I joined was probably, I think it was more archaic than it is today. It was less scientific and engineered based. It was just like, well, you took this and you poured this powder and you just did this, and a lot of people didn't really understand why and what was going on. Over the last 30 years, there's been a lot of effort put in from academia and practitioners to really understand and be able to scientifically explain the process and how it works. And so I think that's been a nice part of the evolution of rotomolding. which coincided with the timing of my career in rotomolding.
Going back to something you mentioned earlier, and I didn't know this until you mentioned it, that when you joined, there were 10 employees at Plasticraft. Now it's, one of the largest on a global scale in the industry. It's my, and if you could touch on this, I would appreciate it. It's my, kind of outside observation or perspective that you have built this world-class organization without a tremendous amount of layers of management, bureaucracy, if you will, not a lot of overhead. And I hope that's a fair observation. I find that fascinating. I find that that goes against the grain of a company of your size. You mentioned too, the first thing you said was attention to detail and really understanding, really everything that's happening within the business. Is there a connection between the two? In other words, a very lean organization that continues to grow and expand. Lean in terms of not a lot of layers of bureaucracy, but also your laser-like focus on minutia, on details, et cetera. Do those things go hand in hand?
Well, they certainly do. You have to start with an ownership group, as I am not the owner of the company, that has that same vision, that allows you to function. And the low overhead and lean really go hand in hand. And part of that in the organization, and you asked me about some of my leadership pillars or whatever, well, it comes down to personal responsibility for people here. And that's not for everybody. So that leads to us, our associates being a certain type of individual, accountability, family, being straightforward and direct. And those are all extremely important. And when you have a lean organization and you want to maintain that lean, I spend every day thinking about how I'm going to tear down department walls that want to keep these department walls. Everybody wants to have their kingdom or their department or whatever. And as soon as those creep into organizations, it stifles the activity that you can have. I mean, because we're lean, we have rapid response to our customer base. And so that rapid response is both ends of the spectrum. It's for the crises that occur, if you have a quality issue or some issue, or opportunities that may present themselves. And so that when you're lean, you can turn on a dime, and there's things that happen. As a custom molder, we can't control markets. And so we may have a very large customer that the life cycle runs out, they run into obstacles. So we have to be able to turn fairly quickly and regroup a little bit. And so, yes, to answer your question, it is intentional. The reduced overhead and the lean. We are a manufacturing company. We manufacture parts for other people. So the majority of our even office people spend most of their day out on the shop floor.
Well, yeah, it absolutely would stand to reason. Too, you mentioned earlier that it's an intentional sort of, as you are, looking to bring people in the business, that there is there's a very well-defined sort of profile that they must adhere to. You mentioned personal responsibility, accountability, the ability to be part of tearing down whatever barriers and walls and silos exist within the organizational structure. Focusing on that like you have and like you continue to do, how, if at all, does that impact your employee retention? I will say that my observation is that you're sort of unusually successful in retaining employees, and I don't know if that's accurate, but how does sort of your approach to identifying a specific kind of mindset or profile in employees that you bring into the business, does that have an impact, and if so, how, on employee retention?
Well, it certainly does. I mean, we are proud of the fact that we have a family orientation, and we do have many long-term employees. I've been here 33 years, and we've got people that have been here 31, 30, 29, 28 in both the office and in the plant. And so that kind of comes down to the type of people we look for when we're trying to hire people. And, you know, we generally don't look for specific experience. We really look for character. Good souls, want to work hard, service others, internal, external, the internal employees, external suppliers, external customers. So you have to look up and down the spectrum and really treat everybody the same and uniquely, and how they want to be treated. And so it really comes down to trying to find people with character. And most of the time, job descriptions here, especially for the office people, everybody wants a job description. We'd prefer not to even have one. So when we hire new people, we say, okay, this is what your primary responsibility will be, but we really don't understand your total skill set. So, but we are going to put you in a position to succeed. So if whatever you started in isn't perfect for what you do, you may evolve into something slightly different. And we fill those gaps and voids through the evolution of the organization with trying to do it with the people that we have as much as possible. So there aren't any real, you know, a direct career path. You go from here to here to here to here.
Right.
But I also tell everybody that the very good people are always the ones who are too busy. So you'll be able to partake in almost anything you want to in the organization if you're doing fabulous at your current job.
Yeah. So I mean, that can be really challenging for somebody who expects to see, you know, sort of black and white, a job description, and here are your 10 tasks for the day. Somebody like that probably wouldn't be very happy or successful or impacted at Plasticraft, versus somebody who has the mindset that you described, but also an ability to sort of identify opportunity and be flexible and open to whatever opportunities might expose themselves in the organization.
Yes, and you know, there still is a place for those people who want to do those 10 things.
Sure.
But that's not for everybody, and it's not the majority of what we have. But if they come here and then that evolves and that's their skill set, then we'll figure that out and get support from the other teammates and the recognition that everybody's slightly different, but we all have to use all those skills to accomplish our main goal of taking care of our customer.
Right on. No, that's great stuff, Matt. Thanks for sharing that. You mentioned a little earlier, changing gears a little bit, your, you know, sort of the impact that your participation, your membership in the Association of Rotational Molders, ARM for short, has had in terms of a positive impact on your success there. You are a recent past president of ARM. I think you were the president prior to the current president, if I'm not mistaken. We talked about the fact that Plasticraft is lean. There's not, a lot of bureaucratic structure there. ARM is a global organization, obviously based in the U.S., but it's big. There's a lot of members in a lot of categories. It has fiscal responsibility to itself as an organization and to its constituents. How were you able to sort of balance, the responsibility that you have for leading your own organization and also the responsibility of leading this trade organization of ARM? What was that experience like?
Well, there's the Nike saying, just do it. I don't know. When you get involved in it, you're doing it because you want to promote the industry. And so, like pretty much anything that I do and a lot of leaders do, is they just approach it and say, okay, I volunteered or was volunteered at some point along the way, and you dig in and do it. And you can't stop doing what you currently do for your business. We have great leaders within the ARM organization, and providing that guidance. And to be honest with you, when I was earlier in my career, when I was a little more youthful, I probably couldn't have done it. I probably couldn't have dedicated the time and the resources. But as you develop in your career, you become more confident, and you figure out how to delegate a little bit internally. Sure. And figure it out. But certainly it does take some time, but it's well worth it, in my estimation, to have one of the organizations in the world that is promoting rotational molding. And that promotion really helps every organization who's involved in it. So hopefully I answered your question.
No, perfectly. Thank you. And hopefully I should maybe ask this as a question. Was there any residual benefit to you in Plasticraft as a result of your leadership of ARM? In other words, is there any positive sort of leverageability of that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a positive vibe. There's
Sure.
Awareness of Plasticraft. Was there any direct correlation to a customer? I don't believe so.
Okay, sure.
That was not my intention at all. But positive PR,
Sure.
you just, or good karma, you just never know how that positivity can affect you in a good way down the road.
Right.
So that's how I viewed it. It was something that I was doing for the industry, not personally for myself or Plasticraft.
Gotcha. Well, you and I are going to see each other in a few days, Dallas, at the upcoming annual conference. Is there anything specifically that you're excited to see, in terms of some of the presentation content or, some of the activities of the committees there at ARM?
Well, it's there's always ongoing activity within the committees, and so that's always very interesting and rewarding to see. But as all of the results in the surveys always come through from ARM, the most valuable aspect is the networking. So rotomolding seems to be an industry where friends beget friends, and you have invaluable relationships and friendships that develop over the years with competitors, suppliers, academia, whatever. It's so I always really look forward to going to the conferences, to see old friends and to make new friends,
Right on.
and to share with people what we can about this wonderful process we have.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Matt.
You're welcome.
Going back a little bit earlier to something, I'll try to connect a few dots and then see if you can comment on it. You define Plasticraft as a manufacturer of hollow plastic parts. You have, almost in equal numbers of machines, rotational molding and blow molding capability. What was the thought process in terms of adding, another manufacturing capability to your already strong rotational molding capability? Was it, hey, just to sort of, expand and future-proof and cover as much ground as possible, or was there a, more strategic component to that? Just curious to get your thoughts on that.
I wish I could say it was strategic or planned, but it was basically a customer said, hey, we have this new project and we'd like you to do it. Would you be willing to try this? And said yes. So it was another way. So after they presented it to us and we thought about it, yeah, strategically, in passing, it looked like a logical path to make hollow plastic parts, but I don't think we at the time put that much thought into it, Tom. I'd like to present that we were that smart, but I don't think we were at the time.
Well, maybe give yourself some more credit. You were smart enough to listen to your customer, and assess the opportunity. And, I think too often companies in our sector, and maybe I'm being a little bit too pointed here, but define themselves within a pretty small box, right? That this is what we do, and we're not necessarily comfortable going outside of the parameters as we define them. And when I look at Plasticraft, you've added the smart machines to your rotomolding capability. Obviously, you've added very strong blow molding capability. You seem to adapt to changing market conditions through the adoption of technology. So certainly from an outsider's perspective, it all seems to tie into a driver of your success. So it is, as the adoption of technology, has that been intentional, or has that also, been primarily driven by your relationships with your customers?
That the adoption of technology has been intentional. I don't believe we've ever been the first, but we don't want to be the last. And so we started around 2002. We started using robots for secondary finishing.
Oh, that's early in the game. Definitely early in the game.
And so we dipped our toe into it, and we learned how to do it. We created a baseline. In 2018, I think we bought our first smart machine. And so again, venture into it, learn the process, try to be ahead of the curve, because in reality, direct mold heating is coming to the industry. It's going to become more and more prevalent from numerous standpoints. There's constant environmental pressure. You can use different materials. You can more precisely mold. There's all kinds of things you can do. And these changes in industries, in old line industries, take a long time. But when they do start to change, they change pretty rapidly. And so all the old line established parts and molds, they're not going away. But as we look to the future, if you're going to want to grow, labor is going to continue to be a very, very big issue for people. In the US, I believe that in the next year or two, that probably labor is going to be the biggest topic of manufacturers again, because right now the economy is just kind of going along. It's lagging a little bit in manufacturing specifically. And I believe things are going to get better and get busy. And so part of what we're looking forward for is how do we address that labor issue? And a lot of that has to do with technology, being semi-automated smart machines, maybe some robotics to do some finishing, integrating as much as you can in pieces. Most people get caught up when saying, well, we're going to automate, and they think that's 100% automation from the whole machine, you know, the machine, the powder's loaded, the mold opens and closes, everything. And I think you need to take baby steps first. There are certain applications where you can do that, but most of the rotomolding that's done worldwide isn't applicable to 100% automation.
Sure. And having, been on the early, sort of end of the curve in terms of adopting the automation or semi-automation, likely positions your company for, to have that sort of head start, if you will, when the labor crunch inevitably hits again. You'll have already had years of experience doing that and can accelerate the further integration thereof.
Yes, and that experience really comes down to the technical internal support that you develop, because it takes time to develop that technical understanding, support, maintenance aspect of the technology.
Sure. Great, thanks, Matt. If we can talk a little bit at a macro level from an industry standpoint, from a global economy standpoint. Within our industry, within rotational molding, very recently, there's been a tremendous amount of consolidation. So formerly, the industry was dominated by privately held, in some cases, family-owned, generational businesses. Many of those have been acquired by larger, publicly held companies who now control a significant amount of the manufacturing capacity. Obviously, it's had an impact on the industry. How do you view that dynamic in terms of its impact on Plasticraft? And also, do you think that will continue? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think that there will be some level of correction of that? Curious to get your thoughts on that dynamic of consolidation and how it's impacted you, and where do you think it might be going from here?
Well, how it's impact, I believe that for Plasticraft, it has and will create opportunities, as we maybe can have a more personalized partnership with some of our customers, not all of them. From a general industry standpoint, we've seen this before. There was a movement, probably, I don't know, early 2000s, a couple people were snapping up a whole bunch of organizations, and then that didn't turn out quite as well as they thought it would, and it kind of shifted back, and now we're back again. Probably we've gone through a predominant time where people that had developed these businesses needed a way to cash out, and so there's been some larger organizations that have come in and started to put together a portfolio of companies or operations, and I think that's hasn't been necessarily bad for the industry. I think it happens when people need to take their whole life's work and maybe then right off into the sunset and have a buyer. But I think we're also seeing that there's all kinds of new people popping up again, just like it was
Agreed.
in the 90s. You know, there's a lot of new startups. People are, maybe they were part of these organizations that got swallowed up, and then they had to get involved in the more overhead and less flexibility, and they said, well, you know, I'm not used to this, and so they go start their own business. So I think we've seen that the last 3, 4, 5 years again, and so I think we're a little bit in that cycle. But I think the larger players are here to stay, and they'll probably continue to grow a little bit, but the industry seems to naturally balance in relation to that. It's an entrepreneurial business, and so it's just interesting to see people just say, well, I can go do that better. And the barriers to entry aren't extremely high at this point for
Right.
conventional.
Agreed. Agreed.
I answer your question?
You did. I appreciate it. Touching again on something you mentioned earlier. I have to be careful how I say this, but you mentioned something. You mentioned something about, let's just call it an image problem or an image challenge that rotational molding has as an industry. You know, in terms of gaining more sort of global awareness and acceptance, but also respect and appreciation. So let me share with you a quick story. I was representing the industry at in the Industrial Design Society of America's annual conference. So these are industrial designers. So these are people who are going to be designing products for companies, and we certainly want them to be aware that rotational molding exists as a very viable medium and manufacturing process through which new products can be developed. There was a member of the plastics industry press who referred to rotational molding as we were exhibiting there in some very derogatory terms. That's as far as I'll go, right? So I took that personally. You know, I really have never forgotten it. It's kind of like this this thing that keeps me going in terms of promoting the awesomeness of Roto. I know you've also been very closely involved with a local industrial design school in the Milwaukee area. And can you share with us your experience and involvement there, and sort of, you know, what you hope to see as a result of that involvement?
Sure. Yeah, I've been involved probably close to 30 years with the Milwaukee Institute of Industrial Design. Fortunately, they had a great professor who did a lot of outreach early on, and somehow we ran across each other. Pascal, I can't Massigny.
Malasigny.
There you go. And so he called me and said, hey, I want to have my class come out and see what you do and rotational, and said, oh, you do blow molding too. He said, oh, that's great. We can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And so we've been doing that for 30 years. There's a industrial design class. They're in their junior year, and they're looking at different technologies to make things. And he has his students come to our facility, and it's a wonderful experience for them. I believe it's a wonderful experience for us, for me. We get to keep up with each new class and the youth and how they act and present themselves, and see how engaged they are or not engaged or whatever the process is. And so, and I know Pascal always had these students then enter the ARM student design contest, and there were many, many winners from that. And so I would go up and review their designs and provide a little insight to them. But I believe you're bringing this up as from an outreach standpoint and promotion of rotational molding. We need to reach the young minds, and just so they're just aware that the process is there. It doesn't mean that they're going to understand everything, but we're going to show them the cool stuff we can do. And then they'll remember that at some point if they're working somewhere. And so at least we'll have opportunities to address projects that we would have never been even considered for. So that was my, I guess, guiding principle, is just planting seeds for the industry, because these people are going to go work. Who knows where they're going to go work, but they're going to go design things. And we want more designers to know about rotational molding.
Right on. You know, and also the young minds, reaching the young minds, I couldn't agree with you more. Certainly one thing on the minds of those young folks, just about everybody compared to you and me are young, right, Matt? You know, is this issue of sustainability, right? And being responsible stewards of the environment. You know, when I think of plastics, probably with a little bit of a bias here towards roto, but personally, the roto process is a very sustainable manufacturing process in terms of recyclability, the fact that most roto products last a lifetime, so they're not buy it once, throw it away, buy another one, throw it away. I think we've got a really strong sustainability message that we can also sort of weave into the other unique characteristics of roto. So getting to a question, sustainability, it's a buzzword in every industry. Is that something that is woven into, you know, sort of your strategic guidance of the business? Are there any intentional sustainability initiatives that you've been part of, either internally or on behalf of your customers? Just curious to get your thoughts on that.
Well, certainly it's a big topic. I would say for Plasticraft, our business is all about sustainability. And so we don't have to use the buzzwords, and rotomolding, as you said, is a very sustainable process. I mean, we recycle everything we don't use is recycled, and it's reprocessed and reused somehow back into a plastic part. So we don't have that waste or rubbish or garbage. But even with that, the expectations, I think, in society are very high regarding recyclability, sustainability, whatever you want to call it. And so we've worked diligently, and we have an offering where we can use 25% of PCR resin, where we compound that back into virgin resin for a product line for a specific customer, and we have other customers interested. It does cost more, and so there has to be a perceived benefit from that customer in order to use that. We also reprocess all of our cutouts and scrap, and it goes into what we call repro. Now that's recycled, but it's not post-consumer recycled. And so there's just different classifications. You can't make certain claims. But we have certain basic customers, that's all we do for them, because they want that and they promote that as recycled. So all of these things add up. We also have done a lot of other experimentation with other recycled or waste recovery processes that we're in the middle of. We have a project where we actually put an compound additive into the resin that makes that resin compostable in an anaerobic environment, meaning that if you bury it and there's lack of oxygen, they say within 3 to 5 years, it turns back to carbon. So it breaks down. So they made the claims, they've done the testing. I still a little skeptical, right? But it's supposed to work and we're doing it. We'll see some results in a few years, I think, to see what the viability of that is. But people are approaching this from a lot of different angles, and we're aware of it, and it's intentional, unintentional. It's just what we do.
Sure, sure. Well, I think, capturing those young minds, you've got a process that could do unique things in terms of the characteristic of the end product. When you sort of multiply that or add it to the fact that, it's a very sustainable process. We really have a lot to be proud of and pound our chest on as rotational molders. So as one ambassador of the industry, thank you for your efforts to do that. Appreciate that very much. Matt, we're kind of running toward the end of our meeting, and I just want to, first of all, thank you so much for your sharing your perspective. Your journey is really admirable. Even though we've known each other a long time, I've learned a lot more today, so I appreciate that. It doesn't seem like that long ago, and guys like you and I were sort of the young cats sitting around the table. My, how that's changed. But is there anything, as you reflect on your very successful career at Plasticraft, any advice that you would give sort of the younger self, looking back after 33 years of experience?
Yeah, I think that a couple things. Nothing happens quickly overnight. It's a cumulative effect. You just got to keep working at things, understand the details, certainly. Just always be prepared, always be thinking of and experimenting on how you can do new things. I look back at my career and so far, and it really is nothing what I ever thought it would be. It's 1,000 times more. It's just been so enjoyable to be involved and to be able to create. Rotomolding's been very good to me. And in closing, I just want to say that when I come to work every morning, I am still 33 years in, totally amazed and blown away that we can take this bucket of powder, pour it in a mold, close it up, put it in an oven, rotate it. An hour later, you open it, and there's this magical hollow plastic part that's finished. It's just truly amazing. Every day, I am amazed. So thank you, everybody, for your time.
Matt, thank you very much for sharing your perspective and your career journey. And I'd be remiss by not saying congratulations. It's been a fantastic run. You should be very proud of what you accomplished. I'd also like to thank all of our attendees today for joining. We appreciate your interest, engagement, and support. Pedram is going to be joining us here shortly to close the meeting. We do look forward to our next installment. As yet, to be scheduled, but will be scheduled shortly for our new RotoLeader series. So thank you very much, and we will see you all next time. Beram, look forward to your closing comments.
Great job, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Matt. Wow, it's an interesting journey and it's really insightful. Thank you, both of you, for doing this session. And congratulations, Tom, for the first episode of this RotoLeader series. I'm
Yes.
really excited. It's really good. And thanks, Matt, for accepting the invitation for doing this session today.
You're
Number one. Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Guys,
Thank you, everybody.
that's the end. Guys, that's the end of today's episode of the Technobiz Rotomolding Tech Talk, and we have the first episode. Kind of is going to sub episode of the Roto Leaders with Tom Innis, and we had a fantastic conversation with Matt Bushman, is the president of the Plasticraft USA. I believe that you find this informative and you learned something out of this session. I look forward to welcome you in the future episode of the Rotomolding Tech Talk. Thank you all. Bye bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.